Well, hello, everybody. I feel like I've been away for absolutely ages and I'm just racked with nerves. I can't even function. I've got a dry mouth. I don't know what I'm doing. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I see lots of friendly faces in the chat, which is always heartening and lovely to see. So, I wasn't going to talk about the Kris Jenner thing because I figure you must be also sick of it. And to me, it was just absolutely hilarious. I mean, it'd be a great South Park episode, wouldn't it? I mean, Harry cast as the lecherous cad leering at Kris Jenner and Meghan being very duchessy. She was being very Duchess at a fashion show. That's what she was channeling in a lot of those photographs. But I'm going to come at the story from a very different angle because something happened today that actually put some meat on the bone and got me interested. My main interest in all of this is how pressure on the palace is handled, how any sort of scandal or sucking of oxygen actually affects the monarchy, if at all, and how they respond. And I was very, very heartened today to see a response that I thought was quite ballsy, actually, and I really enjoyed it. It gave me hope. So I'm going to share with you my thoughts because I'm not sure that a lot of people really picked up the significance of this. Maybe I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, but let's go for it anyway. So what I picked up today was that the palace isn't prepared to let any more of Harry and Meghan's little porky pies fly by. They're not prepared to just let it go. I could see a slight chink in that never complain, never explain sort of armour. And so I want to go back a little bit to the sort of foundation of it, how all this started, because I think it's been a tale of backlash against the palace. I also think it's been a tale of apparent fibs, but most interestingly, today, a very significant clapback. So the foundation of it, as you know, there was Prince William standing on Sugarloaf Mountain, kicking off the Earthshot prize. And all of a sudden, the press pool gets notification that Harry has released the statement that he's going to head off to Toronto. He's going to do some photo ops with veterans. Now, that's all very fine, but the backlash for the palace happened because Harry and Meghan briefed that they had already let the palace know. They briefed that the king was well aware. And the implication was that it went back to that comms meeting at the Overseas Club. That when those two comms teams got together and compared notes, compared diary schedules, that was when they were notified. They implied that. Now, that is why that meeting was just fated. It was just such a bad idea. It was such a bad move by the palace because for the next however many years, Harry and Meghan can point to that meeting. And whenever they do anything that sucks the oxygen out of any senior royal activity, they can point to that meeting, whether it's true or not, and say, but we told you, we shared our schedule for the next year. And, and whether it's true or not, people will believe them because of the images. I know you won't believe them. I know you're far too wise, but it's the optics. It's the optics. And if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, and that's precisely what happened. And look, I don't think anyone was surprised that there was an announcement because whenever William or Catherine does anything, you can set your clock by it, they're going to come out with something. So that's all sort of information that you already know. But this significant backlash for the palace, like I said, was caused by Harry and Meghan briefing that they had given the palace the heads up. Now, this stirred up a lot of resentment against the king all across social media, and maybe it was justified because people, got very frustrated with him over the whole Harry and Meghan thing. A lot of people don't feel that there's enough decisive action. A lot of people think, well, why are they still on the royal family website? Why is Sussex.com still being linked to? All those little petty insults that get under people's skin, understandably so. So this backlash, and I'm thinking, with the experience they've had with Prince Andrew or the ex-Prince Andrew over the last month or so, maybe the palace is starting to learn. Maybe they're getting a little bit savvy, because I think they've cottoned on to the fact that if you just push things under the carpet, that it doesn't go away. It won't go away. And the difference is probably the digital age. Now, I think Prince William's very savvy because he grew up in that era. Not so sure that the palace courtiers are that savvy about how to handle these sorts of attacks in the digital age. And that's what interests me, because I'm starting to see the wheels slowly turning. It's like there's sort of cottoning on finally at last. So what am I talking about? Well, the backlash concerned a perception that he's favouring one son over the other, that he's favouring the wrong son over the other, that the dutiful son, the son that's doing all the right things, is not being supported enough, and the disloyal son is getting to flounce around, as a non-working royal, off to Toronto for the photo op. And it was, like I said, really bad optics. So a correcting clapback came today, and it was very definitely a correcting clapback. It was issued to the Times. Now, admittedly, it was not an official palace statement by any means, but it was a right of reply to Harry and Meghan's claims, and it was a right of reply delivered by a palace source, but it was definitely delivered, and it was definitely a clapback. So I'll just show you what I've got, because I found this really interesting. So the Duke's office, this is the Times article before we get to the right of reply, added that the palace had been informed in advance as a courtesy. Now this is quite snipey. However, it appears no one at the palace received the memo, leading to questions as to whether it was ever sent. But that's not all. There's something much more direct. One source said it was a bit rum to claim the palace had been informed when nobody at either Buckingham Palace or Kensington Palace appeared to have received any advance notice of the trip before it was released to the press. And then the real kick in the guts we got now, when the Duke's office was asked when they gave the courtesy warning and to whom, there came no reply. And that is significant. That is significant. It gave me the same sort of vibe as the Queen when she wouldn't back them up with the Lilibet stuff. It just putting her foot down. That's a step too far. I will not back you in these fibs. And I just got that feeling. Now, I might be completely wrong, but I think that was a significant clapback. I think it pulled the rug out from underneath them, and I think it was a warning shot. Do what you like, but don't make stuff up. And don't involve us. I think that was it. And I also think that Harry would probably get the message that when things get hot, I don't think he can necessarily rely on the palace, or specifically the king, to bail him out when things get a little hot, a little embarrassing, a little humiliating. I don't think he will be bailed out. I think the one person that had enough integrity to actually help him and bail him out was his brother. And he's lost him. But he was the one person. And I think that's what Prince William meant when he said, I've put my arm around Harry all my life and I can't do it anymore. Because when you read between the lines on Spare, you can see that it was often the two of them against the palace. The two of them correcting the record against the palace way before Meghan Markle. If you read it very carefully and read between the lines, I know you don't want to do that. I'm not suggesting you do, but I've read it several times now. And this is the vibe I picked up. That often there would be statements from the palace that pretty much threw the boys under the bus. And, it was William that would stick by Harry. And there wasn't sort of any disloyalty between them. So the first person to sort of break that bond, I think, was Harry. So it's a pity, because now he's on his own and there's not a lot he can do about it. He is indeed in a bit of a pickle. But that wasn't the only significant clapback. If we're talking about clapbacks, we've got the clapback of ticking the box for Photogate, and then everyone's saying, well, actually, no, there was no consent form before the party. Another embarrassing thing. Now, I've got a few photographs because I've got a theory. There's been a lot of theories being bandied about why those photographs were pulled. I think I know why they were pulled, and I don't think it was for any sort of highfalutin reason. I think it might just be quite basic. So I just wanted to put this in just because I find it so funny. And I think probably he's just looking at, I'm pretty sure that Kris Jenner must have had a birthday badge just right on her, what would have been, her left boob. And I think Harry might have been just trying to read what it said. I'm sure that's what it is. He's looking a little bit tired and emotional there, isn't he? Never mind, never mind. The other photograph that sort of took my eye was, what's he doing there? Was he getting out his business card? Was it a sort of a Disney sort of situation where he's trying to get voiceovers for Meghan? What is happening there? It looks like a business card grab, doesn't it? Or maybe it's tucking one away. But way to go, Has. He seems to be networking there. Plus, we know the Kardashians are really angry with them. Who cares? Now, this is the final thing I will say on it. This is why I think the photographs were pulled. Now, there's been many, many excuses made that it was about, Remembrance Day, reverence. That was one of the suggestions. I'm not so convinced. They also said that they didn't want to pee off the royal family because they were trying to reconcile with them at the moment. No, sorry, don't buy that one either. Look at the photograph on the left. You've got Meghan, Kris Jenner and Harry, and they're looking towards the official photographer. And look at the fact that they were photographed from the side by someone sort of not supposed to do that. So they're taking this sneaky shot off to Meghan's right. And now Meghan is a very slim woman. She's hasn't got an ounce of fat on her. She's tiny. But look at her in comparison to Kris Jenner, just due to the very unflattering angle. She looks much bigger in that photograph than she really is. She looks like she's got absolutely no waist. Now, I know she hasn't really got a waist anyway, but in that photograph, that's really accentuated. Now, that's not being bitchy. It's just saying it's a bad photo. It's a bad photo and a bad angle. And I think that's why it was pulled. Because every single photograph that they were in, Meghan didn't look good. Now, not as good as she could look. Now, the photograph taken earlier in the evening with Serena Williams at the Baby to Baby charity gala, she looked good because she was facing front on and she had, like I said, her Duchess at the fashion show face, which is her new face that she puts on. But it looked good. It was flattering. But she's trying to get that same effect in this photograph and didn't work. So I think it was vanity, and I think that Meghan's got form in this area because she doesn't like getting photographs taken with other women, and if she does, she likes to curate them. She likes to be in control of the image. Now, it's interesting that she has tried to curate Harry's image in the past. We know from Tom Bower's book, from the Beckham book, that she told Harry not to pose with David Beckham when he went down to help them with the Invictus Games in Australia because she was worried that they would be compared. She was worried that, everyone would say that David Beckham's hot in comparison to poor hapless Has. And I think probably she might be right because I've got a photograph just to prove to you that could definitely be a possibility. This is serious research, everybody. That's why I'm showing you David Beckham's photograph, because we need to look into this very, very deeply. But on a serious note, how humiliating for David Beckham to head off down to Australia to support them in the Invictus Games and be totally ghosted. The whole time he was in Australia, not once did Harry and Meghan go anywhere near him. Not once did they have one photo call with him. Can you imagine travelling to the other side of the world? It's a long haul flight to Oz. It's a long way. And he didn't have anything else to do. He was doing it for the Invictus Games. Notice he wears the Invictus Games merch. That's quite good, isn't it? But how humiliating. And also how humiliating in front of his sons. So, Tom Bauer did really spell that out in his book, and I just think it's awful because evidently he was really bewildered and hurt. And it was so unnecessary, and it just proves, really, this is who you're dealing with. Okay, so that's the end of that story. I just wanted to give the palace credit for the clapback, because when they do something right, I have to acknowledge it. I can't be bagging them out all the time and giving them a hard time. And then when they finally do something that shows some backbone and something that's decisive, well, we have to give credit where credit's due, because I think we've got to encourage them. We've got to encourage them when they're heading in the right direction. All right, so this nearly made me fall off my chair earlier today. A headline, Herald Sun is our newspaper over here in Oz, that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are going to visit Australia. Now, it's a fluff piece. It's really quite ridiculous, but it's quite interesting because this article claims that this is a very famous astrologer, Angela Pearl, and supposedly I'm supposed to know who she is because I'm told that she's very famous in Australia, and I've never heard of the woman. Evidently, she's based on the Gold Coast. Let me know in the comments if you actually know of her. They met up New York Soho House when they were in New York. This was taken at Soho House, New York. And she's really done the wrong thing because she's shared this happy snap, and she's also leaked a private and confidential letter that they'd written to her. Now, I get the impression that she did a reading for them while they were in New York. I mean, she probably told them that they're going to become king and queen, do you think? Something that they wanted to hear, probably. But she actually gave the newspaper a copy of the letter. And on the top of the letter, it's hilarious because it says personal correspondence. She went straight to the newspaper. So anyway, in this letter, they said that they were looking forward to making it, down under, in the not too distant future. Don't bother, Harry and Meghan. Really, we're fine. I'm sure that she'd be willing to fly over to Melodramacitos to give you another reading. I don't need it. I don't need the angst. I couldn't stand it. Here's a question to all my Oz friends here. Do you think that they would be fawned over? Oh, do you think they would be? Do you think people would be eager and happy and think they're lovely? Would they? Oh, gosh. If that's the case, someone in England's got to put me up because I'm just going to have to leave. If that's the case, I would be so disappointed. I really would. Okay, enough of them. I've got a really interesting story that I don't think has really hit the radar with anyone, but I'll get up a picture of poor old Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Now, this is an interesting story, and it's sort of gathering momentum. I'm seeing it around the traps a little bit. And we've heard the stories about supposedly Sarah Ferguson going to do a tell-all book and all that. We've heard all that before. Could happen. But it has been stated that Andrew is looking at selling some of his private collection. Now, that would involve memorabilia from the family. It would involve gifts that he's been given during his time as a royal, as a senior working royal, presumably to the girls and Sarah, because they want to raise some bucks. Now, you might think that that is unprecedented and that it would never happen and that the royals only sell things off in aid of charity. But actually, no, it happens more often than you think. There's been some significant auctions, usually posthumous auctions, and the excuse is always given that it's because they want to pay death duties and things like that. But the hilarious thing is that what they get at these auctions would probably be 1/30th, would cover the death duties, and all the rest would be millions and millions and millions of pounds. Now, Princess Margaret's heirs which is, of course, Sarah and David, did a huge auction back in 2006. And good on them. They made over £14.5 million. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, I'll show you some nice photographs. So the first auction, there was two. There was a jewelry and Fabergé auction, and then there was another one which was furniture and silver and things like that. Now, in this one, it's quite, if you get a chance, go onto the Christie's website and look up the Princess Margaret auction, because the jewelry, oh my goodness me, it's to die for. Cartier and some real names, and it's just divine. I mean, you're just looking at it and you're thinking, oh, that'll look good on me. Anyway, so aquamarine, I just love aquamarine. So I've got a ring here and a brooch and a few other lovely things, and that is a gorgeous portrait of Princess Margaret. She was a stunning, stunning woman. She really, really was. Also, this is the point I'm making now. The Silver Furniture and Works of Art auction, which happened on another day, that is the coronation chair that King George VI actually ascended to the throne. He was crowned. He was crowned, sitting on that chair. So King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. Now, that was auctioned off, and the money went to her heirs. And I'm not suggesting it's any big deal. Who cares? It's all long ago. But it received £38,400 for this coronation chair. And I'm thinking, well, really? Is that suitable for the family to sell off as a private thing? If someone was crowned on that chair, surely it would be part of the nation's history. Again, like I said, probably not a big deal, but the point I'm making is I think they better get to Royal Lodge quick smart and start putting some post-it notes around, and different coloured ones, yellow for Andrew's stuff, red for Fergie's stuff, and purple for the royal stuff. And they're going to need to go and stick it on mirrors and paintings and things. It's going to have to be independently audited, because they're going to have to determine exactly what is private and what is part of the royal collection. Now, I'm sure they've got all that in hand, but I'm thinking that if, a coronation chair can be sold off for Prince Margaret's family's benefit, then maybe we should be a little bit nervous if Andy's going to actually hold a sale. But isn't it interesting that it has happened quite often? I mean, we all knew about the Princess Diana auctions for charity, but there's quite a lot done for. Also, the York family have auctioned off quite a bit, quite frequently, for quite large sums of money. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. If it's their personal chattels, well, then they have every right to do that. But it's interesting, isn't it? So there you go. Lovely things are worth a lot more if they have a royal sort of seal or history or some sort of royal attachment to them. Okay, now this was quite amusing too. I just love Lady Frederick Windsor, Sophie Winkleman, the actress. I think she's lovely. I think she's very refreshing. But she came out in defense pretty much of King Charles III, I think it was, saying that life in the royal family was total hell. The level of unasked fame is a form of torture. A little bit of hyperbole there, Lady Frederick. To have that sort of blinding spotlight in your face when you're born, not knowing quite whom you trust, it's just brutal, Sophie said. Now, she goes on, there's more. None of them went on Pop Idol or something to be famous, she reflected. I don't think a life with that much scrutiny and pressure is remotely healthy, but they had no choice. Indeed, they didn't. And you know how familiar that sounds to me, Sophie. This was pretty much what was said in Jonathan Dimblby's book. Also, it has appeared in many other unauthorised royal biographies about how the King's life as the then Prince of Wales was absolute hell. People don't understand. It's absolute hell. It's torture. It's literally torture. And look, It just sounded very familiar. So Sophie came out with, a defence of Charles. Good on her. She's a good egg. And there they are at Ascot. And she's a great friend of the family, and I do admire her. You've got to have family that stick up for you. Now, for those of you that don't know, that aren't familiar, Sophie Winkleman actually married Princess Michael of Kent and Prince Michael of Kent's son. And you might have guessed that his name's Frederick. And so I wanted to book up those photographs because when I was little, I'm not going to tell you how little, I remember that the Woman's Weekly and things like that would be on our coffee table at home would often feature Princess Michael of Kent. And when you look at her, you can see why. That shot with her in the yellow dress was just after she got married. And they were a dashing couple. I mean, he was very handsome, wasn't he? Very handsome. And she was a real princess. She looked absolutely gorgeous. And she's still a good-looking woman, but yeah, she looked really good then. Now, it's interesting that I've read many books. Now, there's one. Where is it? Do I have it? Yeah. Buckingham Babylon, which I'm going to share this week. I'm recording some this week. And it gives you these great details about when Princess Michael of Kent actually entered the family. Now, the Queen, the late Queen, and Princess Margaret did have their nose put out a bit. Because she was very glamorous, and they weren't at the stage of being particularly glamorous around that time. Princess Margaret was in the throes of her divorce. And she wasn't feeling particularly lovely at that time, in her 40s, bit puffy, too much booze, too many ciggies, and, she just wasn't happy. She hadn't found Roddy Llewellyn yet, and, yeah, she just was disappointed. She was a disappointed woman. And the Queen was busy. She was just working really, really hard. And probably the most glamorous part of the late Queen's life had probably passed at that stage. She was still a fine-looking woman, but she didn't look anything like this. Now, in a interview, Prince Michael made an admission, and it was funny. This is in 2006. He said, "My wife is not universally loved in the family, I'm afraid. Some find her a little overwhelming." And then I've written here, this was a quote. "In short, the Queen and Princess Margaret considered Princess Michael of Kent arrogant, socially ambitious, and an embarrassment. She was tolerated because she was married to the Queen's first cousin, but never truly accepted into the inner circle." And, legend has it that when they would come to Sandringham, or they'd, get invited to Windsor for Ascot, or they would go up to Balmoral, they weren't necessarily given the most comfortable quarters due to this feeling about Princess Michael of Kent. So I quite admire her, the fact that she stuck it out, because I could just imagine if you weren't feeling overly welcome, it would be quite difficult. So I think that's a great backstory, and I'm going to share a little bit more of that at a future date, like I said. This filled me with fury. Let me know if this filled you with fury while I was away. BBC presenter saying that Kate Middleton's arrived. Now, look, I don't mind Kate in a headline, particularly in the USA, because everyone knows her as Kate. But Kate Middleton? When she's representing us, she's the Princess of Wales. When she's representing the Commonwealth, particularly the UK, for Armistice Day, I just thought that was absolutely appalling. And I thought back and I thought, what other royal woman is referred to with a nickname and her maiden name? Her maiden surname. What other royal has that ever happened to? It's so disrespectful. And I'm beginning to wonder whether it's a bit sort of classist. I'm wondering whether they keep forgetting because Catherine was, upper middle class, not of the nobility, not an aristo. I wonder whether there's a bit of looking down their nose at her. Just wondering. Let me know what you think, but I found that appalling. I did. I know she wouldn't care. She's too much of a professional. But lovely images. Iconic, really, isn't it? And very moving. And I thought her outfit was just stunning, absolutely beautiful. And I think when she goes to all the trouble to wear something so beautiful and so significant, that it's because she cares. She cares about her role, and she cares about doing her very best, and she cares about people of the UK in particular being proud. And I think that's a lovely thing. She's such a pro. Just love her. Okay, King, 77th birthday. Now, liked the shot because probably my most favourite image of Charles is in a garden. I think there's one thing I'll give him. I will give him this. He has done a marvellous job of actually making sure that all the gardens that the public visit connected to the royal residences are just immaculate, been expanded, been upgraded, that they're a real experience. He's left a beautiful legacy with his gardens for future generations. Really a grand legacy. And that is significant because you have to be interested enough to do it. I'm sure that there's been, monarchs before that weren't particularly interested in that. And so that's going to benefit. I mean, particularly the Sandringham Gardens are going to be really something for the public to come in and visit. And I don't think anyone can take that away from him. I mightn't like the decisions he makes as king in relation to really important things, but I think when it comes to his legacy with the beautiful gardens surrounding the royal residences, I think he's achieved something quite significant and something that will last forever, that will be passed down to future generations. So having said that, I feel that this was uncalled for. He'd really put, obviously the gardens do all the work, but, he cares enough to make sure the project happens. And I think it was really a low blow to bring the whole Andrew moving to Sandringham thing into this story. By the Times, I just think it was unnecessary, particularly as it was part of his official portrait for his 77th birthday. I mean, you can have legitimate criticism about anybody, but do you have to take the pot shots? I mean, come on. We're bigger than that, aren't we? So I thought that was a pity that his proud gardening thing would be tainted by the whole Andrew Mountbatten Windsor thing. Maybe I'm getting too soft in my old age. Let's go on to some of your comments because there looks like some interesting ones here. This one's from Stephanie Barrett. Princess Michael is apparently a narcissist. Really? I had no idea. I thought it was, because she was European. I thought that it was like a different culture. And maybe that she was not quite so warm and effusive. I didn't know. Are you getting this off HG Tudor, though? He thinks that everyone's a narcissist. Everybody's a narcissist. I'm only kidding. He does a great job. It's her behaviour that put the royals off her, not vanity. Okay. The Queen was a woman of faith and wouldn't have let vanity form her impression of Princess M. Well, that's true, Stephanie. That's a very kind and lovely thing to say, but the Queen was human. And I've read lots of sort of hints in biographies that, anyway, I'll leave it with your thought because your thoughts are much nicer thought, much nicer. BBC, you do not need to wonder the organisation is disgraced. Yes, and I am interviewing Andy Webb about his book Dianorama tomorrow evening. Now, the interview is going to be released on Thursday to coincide with the publication of the book. And I have been swatting up, and I'm so excited to bring this interview to you because I think you'll be gobsmacked. Don't think you know the story. And I've seen him do a few interviews. But I don't know. I don't think they've really delved into the really juicy bits yet. So I encourage you to watch that. And I would encourage you when the book's published on Thursday to get the book because, oh my goodness me, just, at the tip of the iceberg, my goodness. It's quite astounding, quite astounding. Wendy Kelly, Shauna, apparently the BBC are writing privately to Her Royal Highness Catherine Princess of Wales an apology for the reporter calling her Kate Middleton. Well, I'm pleased about that. And I have to say, I'm not after for the BBC to fail. I think it's very sort of, well, it was sort of an iconic broadcaster. And I wouldn't want to lose our ABC in Australia. I mean, I know that sometimes they can be frustrating and sometimes it can seem to be very, very biased. And there's always an argument for that. And there's always an argument to ensure that that bias doesn't take over. Absolutely. But I think having a public broadcaster is just a lovely counter to the Murdochs of the world. And I would really, really hate to see the BBC go down the tube. I really, really would. But do they have to atone for their sins? Yes, definitely. All right, I have got, of course, a little clip of Prince William and the Dancing with the Stars thing, which I know you've seen a million times, but just indulge me because I love it. Okay, now I'm going to remove the slides. Got to remember how to do this. And I'm going to put up the video now.
Oh my goodness. How are you?
Hey,
oh my
Robert,
God.
how you doing?
How was Rio?
Going really well. The finalists this year, we're really going to go on and save the world. We're missing you, Robert. Whilst your twinkle toes are going off elsewhere, I need you down here.
Now, of course, that I cut that off because there was an ad when I pinched the recording. And, of course, he goes on to say that, Whitney, I want you to get into as much glitter as you can, which was hilarious. And I did look up. It was a lovely moment, wasn't it? It was just feel good. It was fun. I got a quote that Robert Irwin said about William, and I thought it was really worth sharing. It was really quite lovely. He's just a great guy. When you have a conversation with him, he's the most lovely, intelligent person to talk to. And he's just so easygoing, so much fun. I love working with him. He's a really, really, really good guy. And I just thought that was sweet. And so, of course, Robert Irwin is an ambassador for Earthshot. I think he's a very good ambassador for Earthshot. And I like this sort of big brother, little brother dynamic between them. I think it's really cute. And it was just great. Great to see. Great to see. People don't agree with my take on the BBC. Shauna, you are far more generous than me. I can't wait for the BBC to be sued to oblivion. Well, I get that. I get that's definitely a side, and that's why I brought up your comment so that the other side would get a fair shake. But aren't you concerned about only privately owned media, about a media landscape where you've got billionaires, with the agenda of the news? Aren't you concerned about that? Don't you? Your PBS in the USA, for example, wouldn't you hate to lose that? Because there's a lot of programs to educate young children, things like that. And I don't know, maybe I'm living 25 years ago, but it worries me that, we're going to have people controlling the news. The mainstream media is already littered with billionaires that are dictating on both sides of politics. I'm not particularly against one side or the other. I'm talking in general. I mean, we have definitely got very biased left-leaning mainstream media, and we have got very biased right-leaning mainstream media. But I guess I see your point, because the BBC have blown it in that they've lost a large section of their audience through corruption and cover-up. So is that the problem with the BBC, or is it the problem with the management and the board of directors? Maybe it could be cleaned up. Maybe that's too Pollyanna of me, but maybe it could be cleaned up. I guess the important thing is to acknowledge it's happening and to try and fix it. Corrupt is corrupt. Yeah. Okay, I'm being too generous. I think you're probably right. Corrupt is corrupt. Here's the other point of view. We've got a great debate going along in the comments. You're all so intelligent. I just love you. I love being here. Brass Chick 42 agreed on the billionaires. The BBC needs to be more centrist and open. Yes, and I remember growing up, have I got a Pollyanna rose-coloured glass sort of view of my childhood? But I can remember that both sides of things used to be presented. I can remember that a reporter would say, okay, we have this side, we have people that believe this, and on the other side, we have people objecting and protesting due to this. And this expert says this, and this expert says that. And then you walked away from the news with your own opinion, probably influenced by your own political bias. So was it like that? Doesn't seem like that now. Seems to be a lot more opinion. Too much opinion. We've got too much opinion, haven't we? Shauna, you haven't got a mean bone in your body. Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yes, I do. I made my boys mow the lawn today. And they didn't like it. They thought it wasn't fair. This is an interesting comment. PSS and public radio in the US is doing just fine without taxpayer money. Oh, so you're implying that they're just as influenced anyway. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying? Am I being cynical? Is my reaction to your comment cynical? Or is it not what you're meaning to say? This is a really interesting debate. We should have more of a debate about things like this. Brass Chick saying too much opinion, not enough facts. A lot of people are saying, yes, clean up the BBC, get rid of the left-leaning, get rid of the wokery, just plain true reporting, and I'd like to see a return of true investigative reporting. Yes, that was thrilling, wasn't it? I used to love the old Four Corners program on the ABC in Oz back in the day, back when I was, at school and things, and sometimes we'd be set for homework to watch Four Corners. I loved all that. And they'd get right into the, to the nuts and bolts of a story. I just thought that was absolutely thrilling. But you will be interested. I can see that this topic is really taking off with a lot of people. So you will be interested in what Andy Webb has to say. Also, I really admire him because from what I've read so far, he's not a conspiracy theorist. He's completely factual. And yet he makes the facts very, very interesting. And he rolls it out in a way that you feel part of the story. He's just quite brilliant. And the fact that he sort of pays a tribute to Prince William. I won't give too much away before Thursday, but before the interview. But he pays tribute to Prince William in such an insightful way and such a really honest way. It's not exploitive at all. So I'm really excited to talk to him. I really, really am. I'm so impressed by this book. Doesn't disappoint. So tomorrow night, that is happening, and I'm so nervous. I can't tell you. I won't get any sleep tonight whatsoever. Someone said, I hope you got my PayPal. Thank you so much if you did give me a PayPal tip. That is lovely. I cannot reply. If I click on the PayPal, I can't actually thank you. So I've changed, and that feels awful to me. On the rare occasion when I get a little thing for a coffee, I like to send a thank you through to people because that's so kind, and I'm not advocating for more of that. You don't have to do that. But the reason why people ask me, I've switched over to this buy me a coffee thing. Now, the only reason I have, and I'm not spruiking it, is because I can thank you. They have a thing that if anybody does anything, I can actually reply and thank you, which felt more polite to me. So that is why I did that, if anyone's wondering, okay? And it was so embarrassing because I put it on my Substack and then it sent out a thing to everyone, and it was like I was asking people for money and I wasn't. It was automatic, and it was just, I wanted to die. I wanted to get in there and delete it. So there you go. Now I'll share a few more comments and then I'll let you go. Here we go. The coronation chair wasn't the one George VI was sitting on when he was crowned. It was the one Princess Margaret was sitting on. Oh, it makes sense. When she witnessed her father being crowned, that's why she kept it. Oh, you brilliant person. Thank you so much for cleaning that up, because I did wonder. I'm looking through all the Christie sort of catalogue and I was thinking, what? And then I thought, maybe it looked quite an ordinary chair, and I thought maybe it was very ordinary because it was after the abdication. They didn't want to seem too ostentatious, but I thought that was even taking that a step too far. So thank you for clearing that up. That is fascinating. Thank you so much. Wow, there's some people with knowledge here, isn't it? One more from Wendy Kelly, and then I will let you go. I'm an old age pensioner, and I remember all the wonderful shows the BBC had, especially comedy shows, which pulled in thousands of viewers every week. Now it's just rubbish. Yeah, free-to-air TV pretty much is rubbish now, isn't it? I tend to just watch movies or be on my iPad now. So, yeah, I totally agree with that one. Bit disappointing. All right, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for chatting to me and turning up, and I shall see you all again very, very soon. So don't forget, tune in Thursday for the Andy Webb interview. I'm also trying to get Andrew Loney on this Monday. If he's not on this Monday, he will be on definitely. I've got him booked for the 24th of November. So that'll be good to catch up with him and get all the latest, facts of all the different stories that are out there. There's been so many. We probably have to talk for about 3 hours. Anyway, thanks everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining me. Bye. Bye all.